Welcome, ladies and germs, to the Bidness, where we talk to ska and reggae and punk and rock pioneers and special people of the like. Today, we are joined by, and I'm just going to go straight down my screen here, we're going to be joined by Jamie Rocha. She's Rocha.
Rocha, you got it.
Is it Rocha?
You got it. I'm impressed. You got it first time.
She is the tour manager and or merch person for bands like Codename Rocky, Bite Me Bambi, the Macias. She does it all, and she does promotion in Southern California. She's a really special person to know in the scene, and just an all-around fun person. Next, we have Mike Berault from Bite Me Bambi on the show, saying hi to the masses.
Hey, everybody. It was a short drive. Me and Jamie, you know, the
yeah.
together. So she's
right there.
You're like, keep it down.
We carpool like 1 minute drive. It was great.
Nice. And then we have David Macias. Macias, yes. David Macias with Machin. They are, and you also do some of solo work, musician. I first met you in Warsaw, back when we were touring with them as well. Just a fantastic musician, a master at just about everything that guy touches. And then last but not least, we have Jayson Nugent from the Slackers. Guitars from the Slackers, one of my favorite people. I like seeing him in his powder tuxedo with the frilly cravats here, and and he always wears those cool aviator shades, and I'm like, man, why can't I be that cool?
I have to do something. You see here, I have a face for radio.
Absolutely. And my name's Curtis. I play with the band Monkey, and my co-host and band member is Brian. He's holding it down in Hawaii. So hard.
Feel your pain, man.
Poor guy. Poor dude.
Torture.
Well, the good thing, and this is for the listeners that are watching us, is that he is finally well over the COVID hump, and he's feeling much better. So everybody, take a round of applause for Brian.
That was shitty.
Well, like I said before, we have one. Well, we have two questions, but the first one, and this is the most important. I just want to get a taste of what your lives have been like during the COVID lockdown. How did you deal with it? What was the hard stuff? What was the easy stuff? Did you experience anything new? Did you bake bread? Did you make beer? Did you work on bicycles? You know, that sort of thing. And let's go and ask David first. David Macias. What did you do during the lockdown to keep yourself from going insane?
Well, initially you have to go insane for a little bit to kind of like, man, you know, it was kind of crazy in the beginning because it kind of gave me a break. I didn't realize how exhausted I was from like gigging, and, you know, I was on the constant of having to put something out, and it kind of gave me this, I don't know, this time to relax and be like, you know what? I actually have a reason not to take a gig. You know, it's not like there's no gig. So, you know, a lot of the times you get caught where you can't say no because, like, how can you say no, you know? So I was actually kind of relieved for, like, the first few months where I was like, man, this is kind of cool. Like, I actually get to, I didn't even play for, like, the first 4 or 5 months, you know? And then I realized, okay, I actually want to play music because I want to again, because I love it, not because I have to learn these songs to cover a 4-hour gig or because I have to learn this much more material, you know? It kind of made me realize how burned out it got me to like be constantly gigging. So
yeah,
after about 6 months of that, then I started kind of just dabbing with this stuff and, you know, just kind of treating music again as an art and as a craft rather than as a job.
Yeah. That definitely was for me, even for the rest of my band members, it was a learning experience. And like, how far distance do you actually want to be from each other? And is there anything else drawing you back once someone says that you can't, you know, that you can't perform? You know, it's that whole like, do I really want to be with these guys? Do I really want to like, and then you just feel yourself drawing yourself back, and then pow, you're back into it. So it's a cool experience. it's a hard experience for sure.
Yeah. It kind of, there was some of that, where like, I mean, our bass player, he, at the time we have, Machin's working with a new group of musicians. I moved to LA, so I was working in LA. Actually saw the Slackers, you guys, at the one of the ska festivals down in downtown.
Oh, right on. Yeah. The Star Wars or whatever.
It was it was like in 2019.
Right.
Or 2019.
The indoor one or the outdoor one?
It was an indoor one.
Right,
it was
right.
super crazy.
That was bonkers. That was huge.
Around. Yeah, pre-COVID, but yeah, that was an awesome show.
Yeah, that was
love that. But so I was working in LA, and I mean, at this time, like COVID hit, and the bass player left, and that was another thing. I was like, here goes another time to like find new musicians and stuff. So ultimately, it kind of united like the rest of us to kind of be like, what do we want to do? Do we want to rebrand? Is there the opportunity to kind of take it a new direction? And in that sense, we kind of been trying to write differently in a new sense of, like I said, like more artistic, more like, staying true to that, So yeah, the whole thing about the band coming together and going apart, like, that becomes exhausting too. So I think a lot of good things have come from this break, I feel.
Nice. Jamie, what's your experience? How did you keep yourself from going insane?
Well, when it first hit, because my day job is a preschool teacher, and so 2 months we had to close, but I got actually back into work at Mace. I've been working since May in class with kids. Cool. So thankfully that kept me working and distracted, but in a weird way, like Dave was saying, those 2 months were kind of a blessing in disguise, because like the beginning of the year I was feeling like, I think just like a lot of mental health stuff, and I was just kind of feeling cracking. So I think I got a breather, so it came in at the right time, but also came at the worst time, because last year I wanted to go into touring a little more and trying to because I've been with this job for about 8 years now, and I'm like, okay, I want to do touring a lot more, I miss it, and then boom, this happened. And but on the bright side, the silver lining, it got me a little breather, got to rest, caught us in sleep, because my social life is shows, so I actually got caught up in some sleep. I'm like, was feeling my age for a bit, and I'm like, okay, I get to sleep in, rad, cool. But in May we went back working, but we did have our hours cut, so it was not much, but it was not overwhelming, so it was kind of a good little balance. So along with that, with not able to see my friends, that things, that kind of takes a toll on you. Just trying to improve, because I'm also a graphic designer, so just trying to improve on my skills. And on top of that, kind of digging more into a little bit activism. I'm Indigenous, so kind of been involving networking with people. Got involved with some people from Cal State Fullerton in hoping to change some curriculum, how they teach Native history. Been doing that on top of everything. So besides that, just been working and working with my kids and my students, and just trying to keep sane and keep thinking that there's a light at the end of this tunnel. And thankfully, with a bunch of my friends release great music, so that kept me a little sane too, like Bambi and just everyone who is dear to me. So, but thankfully I had work to at least keep me insane and not get those COVID pounds in. So I'm appreciative of that. So.
I'm actually working on that right now. Speaking of your of the whole world of a musician tends to be not fitting in the COVID thing and having it yanked out from underneath you. I cannot imagine how you feel, Jayson, in this whole thing, because the Slackers just don't stop. You guys are always making music. You guys are always on the road. What did you do this year to keep yourself sane and to keep yourself glued in the right spot?
Working in the studio, actually had tons of work. So, some of it paying, but not too much, but a lot of Slacker stuff. We recorded stuff December of 2019 at Flamingo. We took in Austin, Texas, we took the afternoon before a gig and used the multi-track rig there to record a bunch of new material. So earlier in the year, actually throughout the year, I had tunes to mix and work on and live stuff. So we've been putting stuff out every month, and then 1 or 2 clients, and then hard drives full of my own stuff. So luckily I have my new place that I've had for the last year or so, year and a half, has a basement. So I've actually been able to expand the studio, and I actually have a comfortable place to work. And my lady works from home, so she's upstairs doing her remote meetings, so I'm not in her way, and I could just disappear down here all day. So it really kept me sane, and it was actually, I love to tour and I love to play live, but it was kind of a nice break. This is the longest break I've had since like 2003 or 4, like off the road, even including when I was off the road for 6 months with a bad cycling accident. So it actually, I was kind of enjoying for a minute, just like being home, being able to improve the studio and like work every day, exercise every day, practice every day. I practice on the road, but it was like, it was kind of a new thing. It's something I hadn't done in 16 years or something. So yeah, tons of work. So I think I got my skills better and stuff like that. Obviously, that not having the tour income was a huge hit I took. Yeah. But also not going out and doing much. We were able to go out a little bit during the summer, but so that saved money. So really, besides rent and food, it was like I didn't spend any money, so I was able to get a couple new pieces of gear, and it was all right. But yeah, I just worked constantly, so it's been good.
Nice.
So it's good. It sounds like a mixed blessing, some good and some bad. Mike, what was your experience? How did you now to preface this, I know Bite Me Bambi has been very, very busy online. So I'm excited to have you guys on, especially because I want to get a take from someone who has been putting out a lot of stuff, and whether or not that has you've seen the same bump that you would normally without shows. But besides that, what did you do to keep from going insane?
So personally, I mean, from going insane, it just, I'm in I have a day job, and it's pretty demanding. It's like finance work and math. So I essentially I decompressed for like 2 months. It was awesome. It was awesome to do that, nice. Like just to step away. But, work from home here as well. But realistically, I don't know, we like, I have like 3 Vespas, like tune those up, like, you know what I mean? Hung out with my dog, like, I don't know, just kind of took a break from all that. And as far as Bambi goes, it was actually by design. In 2019, we actually had a plan for the year of releasing videos, just because we noticed everybody watches stuff. I mean, YouTube was like the new companion where people would just tune in and listen to music on YouTube. So like, well, our whole come from with it was, why release a whole record and you get this big push on this whole record, and you kind of maybe get interviewed or you go on a tour, and then your 1 or 2 singles you get from that's all that you have, and then the rest of the records, it's it doesn't get as much of a punch. So we decided we were just going to do videos, and then COVID hit, and it was like, well, let's just stick with the plan. That's all we can do. Let's be as active as we can with it. And we really got a lot of help from Chris Grau, who directs all the videos, and really helped us out, as far as getting a message onto the media, and to put these things out. But we did like 10 videos last year, and it's awesome because each one, there's renewed interest in all the other ones, because there they are. When you go onto YouTube, if you like this, then you're going to like this, and this.
Exactly.
And so it's really done well for us. And I don't, my thing with it too is that we're in a position where, we don't charge, we don't have a download code or anything on our website. I mean, the music's on Spotify, or it's out there for free, and it's on YouTube, so you can always have it. But what's great is we have an album coming out here. We actually I just approved the artwork for it, and it's coming out. And we've got all this interest in the album, and I thought we wouldn't, because everybody was getting it for free. But it turns out your fans really want to support you no matter what. So it's been really cool. It's been really cool to experience some of the love from the fans. And also, it sucks because we had 2 really big tours lined up this year and didn't get to do them.
Yeah.
So that's a bummer, but there's always next year, and hopefully, if not, we're just gonna keep doing videos until we can go out on the road. I guess I don't know.
Nice. Yeah, we're for Monkey, we decided that this year we're gonna just start recording all the stupid covers that we've always played for a million years. All the when someone mentioned the 4-hour show that you got to be prepared for. Well, we've got like 2 hours of music that's not ours, including and then another like 3 or 4 hours of our music. So it's it just seemed right that we at least get them down on track. So we're working on that and trying to make things come together. But yeah, man, it's all about staying busy. It's all about doing what you love, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hey, David, you still live in the Palm Desert?
Yeah, actually, Yucca Valley is by Joshua.
Yeah, up by you probably you're by Kevin, the drummer for Warsaw, right? Up in the hills there.
Pretty
Nice.
much neighbor.
Nice.
If I could think of any place during the lockdown that I could be, it's definitely out in the desert, out in the hills, because the you have to drive into town to experience your life, but where you do all your living is like on a hill with a dirt bike, whatever. And then you stand out there by a cactus and drink a beer, and it seems like that almost a paradise of sorts. Did you experience that you had a lot more freedom and kind of enjoying the backwoods of your area?
Absolutely, man. That's kind of what I was saying. It was a blessing in disguise in that way too, that I was living, I was going to school. I was in Hollywood, and it was just too crazy. I didn't like living there, and like all this happened. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to renew my lease. I'm going back to the desert, taking a break from school. Nice. So it kind of worked out in that sense that I had to come back here. And obviously here you're open, like you said, like I have hiking just in my backyard. I can go hiking for a day if I want. So yeah, it's much nicer. Definitely, I think that's why that helped not going insane during this time. That having that freedom to not be surrounded by a whole bunch of people, and taking my dog and run without a leash. And he's just as happy. Nice.
And there hasn't been too many like drifters, like people coming into your area, like looking for something to do.
No, actually, there's a lot of people from LA moving here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people from LA and the cities here, because now that everybody can work remotely, why live in LA?
Why pay the exorbitant rents?
Yeah, exactly. So there's been actually the real estate here has been shooting up. Everybody's buying houses here.
That's cool. That's different. You're gonna have neighbors now.
Yeah, well, I mean, I do have neighbors where I live. I don't live like out in the boonies, but I do have neighbors. I live in Old Town, so there is people here, but just about a quarter mile out, we're in the desert. Nice.
Hey, Jayson, do you actually live in New York proper, or where do you live?
Yeah, I live in kind of almost in the center of Brooklyn.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
Okay. Wow.
How's that experience? I know. New York got hit so hard by COVID that it seemed almost like, man, if people don't start moving out of New York, like it's going to get really, really ugly.
Yeah, no, it's weird. It was a real experience because, really by late March, by early April, it got fucking nuts, man, where it was like the streets are almost empty. I live right off of Broadway in Brooklyn, which is a separate Broadway, but it's still a really busy main thoroughfare. And it never got like empty, but without rush hour traffic and stuff, it almost got like a weird Mad Max kind of, where like kids would be racing on their like dirt bike kids have in Brooklyn and stuff, that they like do wheelies like totally up the road on the wrong side of the street, and like ambulances, like night and day, you would hear sirens and ambulances, really scary. It was definitely fucking nuts, man. And you couldn't see anybody. We didn't, we were on like shelter in place order. So it was like, couldn't have any friends over for like 6 weeks, almost 2 months or something like that, till like late May. It was really before like you could even like have a friend over or something like that, man. It got really fucking weird. And then obviously June, with the protests, with the murder of George Floyd and everything, shit went bonkers. Again, you had curfew. Actually, now on top of the COVID shit, you had like police mandated curfews, roadblocks. This year was fucking bonkers. So even during the election craziness, like the past month, even that's somewhere else, man. That's like not my problem, Like, I mean, it's my problem, but there's nothing I could do about it. It's not right outside my front door, So well, he's and now we have like a foot of snow on the ground and it's freezing. So,
Yeah, one thing you could always count on New York is there's always going to be freezing time.
Yeah, it's actually been really mild. I mean, shocker, winters have been getting milder, but there's always like a couple weeks where it gets really cold and whatever. And now we're in that,
Nice. Yeah, I remember June for me is when it got I think it was like June 1st. It got real for the first time. You guys remember when San Jose was in was like on CNN? The San Jose police were like the people protesting were on the freeway and they had to walk them off the freeway. It was like a big riot, and then there was rubber bullets, and some girl got her eye popped, that kind of thing. Well, I live about an exit, maybe 2 exits from where the protesters were. And I'm sitting there, I told my girl, I said, yeah, I think, there's supposed to be some extra activity today. We might want to stay in, that sort of thing. And I work in the basement, right? So I'm doing my work in the basement. That's what you're looking at right now. I call it the hope bunker, because I hope this shit goes away. But anyway, so I'm literally finishing up my day. My girl is up in she's in the hammock with the dog, and I emerge out of the basement to see the sun, right? And to see a giant black cloud of smoke, and I hear police going one way, and I hear fire engines going the other way, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
Right. Let's go back in the basement, man.
He goes, I don't know. I've been watching this stuff for like a half an hour. Well, it turns I live like but basically like 4 blocks this way is the police department. 4 blocks that way is the fire department. On this side of me, the homeless encampment that's on the other side of the airport decided to burn the entire, like all their everything just burnt to the ground suddenly. So you got this mass rush of fire vehicles, and then you've got these police like dealing with the rubber bullets, down the street. So they're getting off right next to my house onto the freeway to go up one or 2 blocks to come back up. But man, it was just like I'm in Beirut. Like, it was just crazy. Did anybody find themselves like extremely close to that shit when it was going down?
Dude, stop. So I live in Anaheim. I live like a mile from Disneyland, okay? Right on the same street. Harbor Boulevard cuts right down. It's about, 50 yards from my front door. So I live in this old community, old historic Anaheim. And so all the protests were on Harbor Boulevard, all walking up. And, it's as if there was 99% kind of young Mexican kids just out protesting, which is great. We're all went down to the end of the block. We're all supporting. And then, there was definitely some agents. There was like 8 or 9 guys out of everybody who were just starting shit. And no joke, the police, police headquarters is probably, I can hit it with a golf ball from my house. It's like right around the corner. So they had huge barricades all around. They were basically directing traffic, all these people walking on the other side of the barricade. So they were kind of filtering them through the city and kind of around, but everybody congregated there. Yeah. And so the SWAT came out. I mean, dude, AR-15s were drawn. Like, it was, my girlfriend Christina is out, she's a photographer. She's out there taking photos. I'm like, get your ass back here. Like, when I see weapons, it's time to walk away. Because who knows? I mean, these Nazi-ass cops, who knows if somebody, somebody throws a firecracker and all of a sudden somebody gets shot. It's like, we're better off just observing from back here. And it was pretty hairy. A couple of nights were pretty bad. We had we had riots here about 5 or 6 years ago as well. And it gets pretty unruly. But you know, all in all, what happens is they brought the helicopters over and they kind of swoop down and make announcements, and everybody who's there to protest leaves, and then you're left with the 9 guys. You know?
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, so clearly those are the dudes that are, you know, those are the ones that are really starting to happen.
Those are the guys that spray painted Antifa on their
and
sweater that they pulled over their pro-Trump T-shirt.
Right, seriously. There were guys who were full on like with military vests and stuff too, but on like fixed gear bikes. So I don't know what, like, are they hipsters or what are these kids? you look at the they all have backpacks, and the backpacks there's a bunch of cans in there, so it's like, okay, so they're here to, you know, they're not necessarily here for that. Here's the thing though. Growing up here, I mean, I grew up a mile from where I live now, and traveled all over the world and lived different places, but I settled here, and I have no love for police either. You know what I mean? As a grown ass man, I have no love for it. But it's a weird position to be in, because I found myself for the first time really concerned for the younger people that were out there. Like, I'm not the target, right? I'm like a white guy standing there watching it. As much as I am there to protest, I'm not the guy that there's lower hanging fruit than me, right? So somebody's going to go after somebody else, and I just didn't want to see people get hurt. And to be honest, it kind of reminded me of like, it was a great time to be reminded of why we started playing ska music to begin with, and how inclusive ska was in the late 80s and early 90s when I got into it, and you know, how it's kind of a beautiful thing that we built. You know what I mean? I think it's easy to lose sight of that, especially during times like that. But that's the one thing that kind of brought me comfort, was like, you know, dude, we're contributing to something better. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I hate to be idealistic about it, but you know, it just gave me a little bit of hope. And I've never ever been afraid for somebody else's life. You know, like a parent would. That's why I don't have kids, because I'm selfish and I don't want to care about other people's lives. But it turned out that the compassion will get you. It doesn't matter how old you are, I guess, or how jaded you are.
Well, I think as you get older, at least for me, like my compassion level starts to creep up, not down. You know, you hear all these people say, "Oh, you're going to become a Republican when you're older," and I'm farther and farther away from it every second I breathe.
Yep.
Like,
fuck no.
Like when people say,
I don't know who says that.
Yeah.
People tell me
Hey,
that.
Curtis. So are the Republicans further away from what every day.
Yeah, sure.
Just down the fucking rabbit hole.
It's funny. We were supposed to go to England on a tour in June, and it got pulled, of course. You know, and we're still sitting on the plane tickets. And the promoters were calling us and saying, "Hey, man, maybe we'll reschedule for September." And I'm like, literally came out of my mouth was, "Oh, September, we'll be deep in in civil unrest by then."
Yeah.
And man, I mean, it started I think it started a week after. I was probably talking to him in May, because by June it was just like crazy, like the world is on fire, and my response was like, man, you know, just like the problem that I think the world had with this last year is that for the first time in a lot of people's lives, they realized nobody is in control, period. The president's not in control. The FBI is not in control. The CIA is not in control. You know, your mom is not in control. Your dad's not in control. The only control you have is what little you have to stay out of the way of bullets and fists. So you either participate in that or you stay out of the fucking way. And for me, like, I got that, like, that was like big message for me, like, boom, glowing. I'm going to be over here. I'll watch from afar, but I'm not going to be the person that loses their life or loses their family member over this, you know, because guess what? 6 months later, we got a new president, and he's like, now we're knee deep in like solving this. Now we're working together. Now we're doing stuff. So, man, so many people. Anyway, super dark topic. Let's lighten it up.
Woo! Come on.
Has anybody?
Okay, we can do that. You know, Scott's like happy music. We should like get dark.
Yeah, it should. That's one of the things that I just love about like the Slackers, especially, is, you know, you've got this super lively, just like driving awesome ska, and then you're listening to it and it's just like the whole fucking world has gone crazy and everything is like going to shit and we're just trying to make it, and it's just like that's one of the beautiful things about ska music, is it can be the liveliest, poppiest, happiest sounding music with the darkest matter, like subject matter in the world, or it can be the dirgiest, slowest, saddest music that's talking about love and light and happiness. Like, which one is it? Doesn't matter.
We are the
Let's
band
flip
of
the
dirty.
coin. Yeah, you know. I love it when you guys.
We can write a mean dirge.
One of my favorite things is like just this whole last year or so is, you know, watching the Slackers, some, you know, whoever runs the social media, like put up like a political post of some sort, and like 98% of the fans are just like, fuck yeah, and like 2% are like, we just stick to the music and stay out of politics, please.
Yeah,
Like,
now stick to the music.
I am pretty sure I got into
have
a
you guys
on a
ever?
Slacker
Yeah,
I'm pretty, that
absolutely.
did happen. That did happen.
Just like, I'm sorry, have you fucking idiots ever listened to the lyrics ever of the Slackers? Like,
You know,
like, just stick to,
people like
like,
that have just like,
stick to.
you know, a menu of things they say. They don't really think for
Oh, yeah.
themselves. They have like trigger,
Oh, yeah.
like things they shoot from the hip with. That's like their standard
Right.
reply to things. So, you know,
Yeah.
go beyond that. People like that have nothing because they don't think for themselves.
Nothing at all. They're like, stick to the love songs. I'm like, what? Which love songs? The one about getting
Love
wasted.
songs are
finding the
political,
person
and the
to fuck,
political
or-
songs are love songs.
Well, they
Right,
go.
exactly.
They could always a love song that says, "I threw your husband in the river." That's
Yeah,
that's a light,
yeah.
fluffy tune.
Or, you know, yeah, there's
Topical. It's a good tune. You can dance to it.
It's a theme that's classic. You know, it'll stay on for years. You know,
Nice.
Shakespearean.
exactly.
Well, you know, what's crazy is that
So,
when you think about, like, it depends on when you got into ska. Like, a lot of people, their intro to ska that we're finding was, you know, is like Real Big Fish or whatever. And, you know, when I was a kid, you know, Fishbone was my band, or I guess No Doubt too, because it was before they kind of went soul. You know, they were before they tried to become a soul band or whatever they became when they were still local. But Fishbone was you know, everything was politically charged with it, right? I mean, and then it just, and that's what we loved about it. We loved that there was somebody speaking truth, and there was all these kids getting ready to party together, you know, and also kind of have this social consciousness about it, which was great. It was kind of like a party for educated, not educated, but kids that were kind of hip to maybe what was going on a little bit, you know, I don't know. Not to sound that important, because again, I was 14 years old. What are you going to do?
Well, it's at that point, it's not about calling the 14-year-olds to arms. It's about educating the 14-year-olds on how much imbalance this culture has, and that's really what they. As a band, that's the biggest thing that I get from them is the you know, they've got some, you know, they got some, like, you know, Kill Whitey type of songs, but I never get the fact that, or
What, Monkey doesn't have any Kill Whitey type of songs? What are you talking about?
Time to get on it, Curtis. Get on that right now.
No,
Kids wanna
but
hear.
we have plenty of songs that will kill the vibe.
Sounds about right. Sounds about right.
that's about white.
It's accurate. It's accurate.
Sounds about right.
Awesome. Hey, Jamie. Speaking of how white I am,
Wait, how much time do we have? Let's do this.
Wow.
Wait.
We got all the time.
Because you said you were
I am.
indigenous, and I have some indigenous blood in my family as well. So I would like to know a
Oh,
little
dear Lord.
about your indigenous tribe. What tribe are you?
I am Tongva Gableno, which is the indigenous people of Los Angeles, Orange County, Catalina. My grandmother, Chief Yana Berault, was a chief of our tribe. So my family has very in the trenches of the activism here and pioneered a lot of the stuff that you see, especially when it comes to law and policy regards of native tribes in California, to the point where there's murals of my grandmother in San Pedro, and I think there's a mural of my grandmother at the Smithsonian
Nice.
in Washington. So so yeah, I'm Tongva, and actually my mother is also half indigenous too. She's a Tiwa, which is Pueblo, New Mexico kind of a native. But she always mostly identified under like Mexican culture, but she always knew her indigenous roots because a lot of Mexicans are indigenous.
Yes.
Tongva, and like I said, this year I've been really trying to get back into it. My dad is on the council, the Cultural Advisory Council for one of the Los Angeles indigenous schools, Alahuacameca. And so he's been doing that. They want to put him on the Los Angeles Native Council, and they've been trying to do that. And just because a lot of people knew who my grandparents were, and the work and legacy that they have here. And so something I take very great pride in, and just trying to because I don't know everything, but I'm constantly learning about my own history, my own past, my ancestors. So and it's really cool because being in the ska scene, you get to meet a lot of people from different backgrounds, and I get to share that. And then they say they learn from me, and I learn from them. And it's a beautiful thing. So it's something that I'm extremely passionate about. And this year has been pretty hard, just at me as being an indigenous woman, especially seeing with the Black Lives Matter, who I fully 100% support. And with the civil, like Jayson was saying, the civil unrest. And on top of that, too, in LA, there has been a lot of indigenous protests, too, in regards of, still trying to remove the little fragments of Columbus Day that still kind of reach around, which my grandmother actually helped started back in the 80s. My grandma and my own dad were kicked out of City Hall in handcuffs protesting Columbus Day back in the day. And especially regards to, we have California missions here, which is deep root in indigenous genocide. And I'm trying to do my part in working around where, kind of go to the truth regards of how that's taught in our California system, in our educational system, because there's still a lot of romanticizing and not enough of the, no, this is what really happened. People were murdered and raped and, pretty much concentration camps in terms of indigenous people. And I take great pride. That's my history, and I love it, and I love talking about it. And so that's who I am, and that's actually a big part of who I am. So
well, that's cool. I've hung out with you a ton of times at shows and stuff. I don't think I've ever had that kind of conversation with you. It's always interesting because one thing that ska has the ability to do is grab people that are indigenous, that are Black, that are Asian, that are Eastern European, African, just the ability for it to just speak to everyone because it's music from the heart.
Oh, 100%. 100%. People think that like we're bitter. This is what we want. My line back. It's like, no, all we do want to do is educate and like and just kind of like acknowledge, like, hey, we're still here. We're not some historical figure that you read in the books. Like, we're still living a living people here right now. And I love it too because I get to represent maybe there's not as many of us, but especially in the music industry, I like being a representative of that. I'm Tori. I'm a woman of color, especially of someone who's indigenous, and and I get to represent that working in the industry too, especially in ska. So kind of and ska gives me a voice, and that's the one thing I really appreciated. Especially it's a really voice for those the minorities and people of color. So I really love it that about being in the ska scene, especially here in LA, Orange County, because I live in the LA area. I live in West Covina, which is like kind of a suburb of Los Angeles. So, but I'm very active in the Orange County scene as well.
Fantastic.
So, it's good to be a voice and kind of representative of that. So it's really awesome.
Yeah, I like I like to see that kind of stuff. I like to see that side of people, because a lot of times when people come to talk on the show and they're like, okay, my music point. But this is an opportunity for your fans or your friends to see a little bit more about you and who you are inside, and that's definitely something that I would have. I get when I hang out with you in Southern California. I get the feeling that you have much depth to offer. And that is the depth that I'm talking about.
And I love it, because the one thing I appreciate about being in the ska scene, I've been in this scene for almost 2 decades now. The one thing I appreciate is like everyone's willing to learn, and they're learning with the open mind. They're not, sometimes you get a little feedback, but I think that's their own kind of ingrained prejudice, or still kind of getting over their own kind of issues. But they're always willing to learn. I have so many friends come to me like, hey, I have a question. Is this okay? And I love that. I'm like, you'll be able to come to me. If you have a question, don't think I'm going to judge you. I want to help you. And I want you to help to form and learn. So, and I think that's like what is great about, being in the scene. They're so willing to learn. And I love that. Nice.
Hey, Brian, what's going on in the feed? What do we got going on there?
Got Francesca Stout. Has checked in from the UK. Yep. She's said, politics have been a part of music since the dawn of time, from folk music to protest songs. They've reflected the times and have been a way for ordinary people to comment on what's going on in society. Long may it continue. So that's
and diversity is
nice little thing.
Strength.
And then just talk about like growing up in the UK in the 80s and going and listening to bands like Madness and Specials and Beat, and how they tackled subjects about racism and unemployment, violence, mental illness, etc. Like, diversity is ska's strength, is the last thing she
100%.
said. We also had our bass player, Gabe Jimenez, check in with our friend Patrick from Starving Musician in Santa Clara, and so they're watching the show from the floor.
I was going to say Gabe and Patrick, get back to work! Get back to work! What are you doing watching us?
Anyway, yeah.
So
the feed's a little quiet.
David, so what? I don't know your background. I don't know if are you Indigenous American or I mean Indigenous north of the border, Indigenous south of the border.
Well, I was born in Mexico. I was born in Chihuahua.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and then but I came. I was an immigrant until I was 16, 17. But nice. I grew up in Boyle Heights in East LA. Graduated from Roosevelt, and then around that time I got my green card and enlisted in the military. So I ended up, that was 2001. So all up to 2009, I was in the military. I was a hospital corpsman with the Marine Corps, and that's how I ended up here in the desert. I was stationed out in 29 Palms.
I think Chris from Warsaw was like, "Come meet my new guitarist. He's a sniper. He's a sniper."
I was in the medical field. I was a paramedic, combat.
Other end of the spectrum.
He helps people that get shot. So.
Yeah, no, I think every town that we hit, it was like a different story, or it was like different thing. Yeah, that's
ABC. That's about right.
Flops.
Yeah, it's just like take it with a salt. But yeah, no, actually, but that's how I started playing music, was with Chris. He was like, I was just a stiff military guy. I was like, I want to play music. Like, that's why I got out of the military. And he was like, he's like, I'll teach you how to play trumpet if you teach me how to speak Spanish.
Oh, that's great.
I'm like, oh, I'm like, it's cool. I'm like,
at least one of those things is you useful.
Yes.
Yeah,
Awesome.
trumpet playing is really
I was
useful.
just-
Yeah,
and-
You teach me Spanish, and I'll teach you something
Right.
you'll never lose.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's like I'm like, hey, I played trumpet when I was in the mariachi, growing up. So I was like, that'll be cool to get back into it. It just so happened to be that same week that I started hanging out with him, the guitar player from the California Celts quit. Like just kind of like that day. He's like, hey, I'm done on Monday. Is that like, so he looked at me. He goes like, hey, you want to play guitar? I was like, shit, I've never played Celtic music. I'm like, show me, like, what do I need to learn, Like, I could barely even play guitar at this point. But I just wanted to play, So I ended up learning, like, the 4 hours of material in, like, 2 weeks, trying to, like, as good as I can, And, getting Chris Poland's snake eyes throughout the shows, every time I hit a wrong note. But, yeah, I mean, you learn.
Yeah, he's a little bit rough on the edges when on his players. A little bit.
Yeah, well, I mean, I always stayed quiet because, again, it's like I was just grateful to be actually being able to learn, and then, but yeah, I mean, I learned a lot while I was playing with Warsaw and with the California Celts, which kind of led me and prepared me to kind of do my thing, with Machin, and just kind of like it taught me the ropes and stuff. So yeah, it was a good internship.
Nice. I remember seeing you. I don't know if it was early in your career with them or late, but it was probably about 6 months before you left the group. But you were doing a lot of stuff with like flamenco style, like with the open hand style of playing, and that really resonates with me because one thing that people don't know about me on a surface level is that I won a scholarship when I was 18 years old for playing flamenco guitar. Oh. So I have roots in Spanish open hand playing, with the whole rhythms and the golpes and the whole scene, and to see someone play that in a new, like, you separate that experience with 20 years of drunken partying and playing ska and rock and whatnot, and then someone is in front of you playing something with that feel, and then it suddenly just brings you back. It's just like a wave of just like, wow, that's a part of me I forgot.
You didn't
I forgot that part.
keep up with it?
Yeah.
You didn't
So what?
Yeah, but it's
Keep up with
I grew
it?
up from mariachi. Mariachi. That's where I grew up playing, and like I like flamenco. I'm influenced by flamenco, but I can't play flamenco. But a lot of my influence was kind of mixing in those mariachi, like hard, like rumba rhythms with like some ska elements, and that's kind of where I was mixing in ska with like the mariachi, like percussive stuff, and then I started developing like different ways of beating the guitar, and getting different beats and stuff, and that kind of evolved into a more like full-on thing, like what I was playing. I was playing the bass line with my thumb and the drums with the things and the rhythm, and kind of keeping like the ska beat, going. I was like, kind of cool. And so that's kind of that I did. I was doing that. I mean, that's sort of what Machin is. Machin and my solo stuff is me doing that because I wanted to do both elements, which are like totally different, but they're special in their own way. So when I do like my David Macias solo stuff, I'm presenting a lot of that acoustic element, and then when I do Machin, I'm presenting that with more of a full band,
Nice.
show.
Nice. Jayson, you were saying something earlier?
No, just about your flamenco. You didn't keep up with it?
No. Okay. So I was. I think I'm gonna say something about myself that some people know and some people don't know, is that I'm kind of like in a weird way, spectrum or autistic in a weird way, because there are certain limitations that I can take things to, and then I back out of it because I don't feel right about it, or suddenly I feel like it's not for me, or I just can't focus on it. So what happened with me is a friend of mine, he was actually the original bassist for Monkey. We had taken a bunch of classes together, and then we decided to both audition for this for this scholarship fund. And we went there, and we were like late. They're like, we're going to shut the doors on you. You're late. And then it's like, okay, well, we're here. So we played our part, and then we waited patiently. And then the teacher, who, by the way, my teacher was Anita Shear, and she's actually in the World Dictionary of Flamenco.
Wow. Right?
So she's actually a really big player, but I didn't know that at the time, and she's since passed on. But she was super excited. She's like, you guys both won. We had 2 slots. We did a bunch. We had a bunch of people come and apply, and you guys showed up late, and you just nailed it. So because we were just like feeding off of each other, like trying to get better and better at this thing. Then we went to, we were supposed to go to play, the thing was, you got a scholarship for 8 lessons with, God, what's his name? I want to say Montoya, but it's not Montoya. It's a local guy who was really big in the flamenco scene. I have to look it up. So I did those lessons. And then we were supposed to play at a juerga, which is like a concert, like a cultural concert, right? So they have like dancers and all that bit. And I remember I showed up, and I was way more excited the fact that the bartender served me alcohol than it was at the music.
You're like, forget
yeah.
playing. I got booze in my hand.
Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but the thing with it, I remember distinctly that I got on stage going, I'm going to nail this, and then I'm like, I'm not really satisfied with what I'm doing as I'm playing, and then afterwards, everyone was like, oh my God, and they're fawning, and they're like, you could be the next whatever, and I was like, I don't like the attention. I don't like, in a weird way, I don't like this attention, which is weird because I'm in a band, right? And the whole thing supposedly for band members is that they are craving attention. And for me, it's never been about like welcome everybody, like, look at me. I'm more like, is everything right? Did I do it correctly? I talked to this person said that we did it correctly. I think they know what they're talking about. I can rest assured that we at least did an 85% good show, but we're going to get the next 15 next time. So that's me. I'm like in that mindset all the time. I'm almost like a robot calculating whether or not things went correct, and how was my throw this time? Was my throw better than the last time? So it's weird. But
you still kept doing live music. You enjoy doing ska more, or is it the full band thing? You can kind of just sit back in the band, and that it's for me, solo thing.
Yeah, for me, I think so I was floundering. I played trombone a little bit when I was a kid. I played saxophone a little bit when I was a kid. Didn't really learn anything from either one of them. The one thing that really pisses me off is that my teacher told me not to play trombone because she said my lips were too fat.
How many other reasons?
Yeah, like 20 years before I realized that Louis
that his arms were too short.
But Louis
you notice Glenn has very thin. Glenn has very thin lips.
No, I had a teacher, and she was trying to gear me towards saxophone because she needed a saxophone player, not because I was good or bad at anything, because I didn't know anything about anything at that point.
That's a good band manager right there. That's a really good facilitator right there.
No, you're going to be a great sax player.
You should practice driving the van.
Nicole is like, let me write this down. I got to tell the kids as soon as the class comes back.
Don't worry, 10-year-old Curtis. We'll just put some blocks on your shoes and put some phone books under you. You'll learn how to drive a van.
I remember being so mad one day. I've always been a really big fan of Louis Armstrong, and one day I'm watching some old footage of Louis, and I'm like, damn it, he has big lips. I could have played that. What is wrong with her? It's just suddenly hit me like a ton of bricks. And by that time, I was like guitarist and bassist and singer and da-da-da. But yeah, I went from there into like rock and roll, and then I saw Skank and Pickle playing their third show ever at De Anza College in the Quad at lunchtime, and there was nobody there. It was just me and like 4 other board students, and I was like, these guys have it. This is it. This is what I want to do right here. And so I immediately
I want to play in front of 4 people.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. No, but for me, it was about the expression, and they were just. If you ever saw them in the early days, their bassist was like he would ride a unicycle and play bass at the same time.
Yeah, right.
Like he was a nut. So he was like literally jumping on the tables and kicking over food, and then Lynette was just like standing there like, and like just frying on just doing these crazy chords, and I'm like, I love this band. I love this band. So as soon as I remember going home and immediately going, I need to go to Rasputin's and look up every ska disc and buy every ska disc I can. And that was when I started pushing all these bands to try to become more ska-like, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work. If you're playing rock, just be a rock band.
Yeah, exactly.
Just be a
Well,
rock
dude,
band.
talk about useless skill sets. I actually grew up. I got my job in a ska band because I played the accordion, right?
Oh,
So,
nice.
Yeah, I had this salesman came to my house and sold my mom lessons, and the guy told her that if your kids play the accordion, they can pick up anything. They can pick up any instrument. And I don't know if that's true necessarily. I do play a few instruments, but I don't know if that's true per se. But when all the bands are forming, we all were playing shows. Growing up here in Anaheim, I'm in the same grade as like Gwen Stefani's younger brother, right? So no doubt even then was a big band. Like 200 kids would show up, which was a lot, and so we go and we wanted to start a band, right? Of course. And so, we started this band called the Schmedleys, and our first gig was kind of like Op Ivy a little bit. And our first gig that we played, we opened this show, and it was we opened it, but Voodoo Glow Skulls played right after us. A band called Suburban Rhythm played right after that. And it's Gwen and Tom Dumont did like an acoustic thing, and then Sublime played. Like, it was ridiculous. And not that any of those bands were big, but it was this thing that was starting, and we were kind of at this entry level point. Yeah. And so when that band kind of finished up, we're like, oh, we wanted to get a little bit more serious. And everybody's like, well, there was always a better guitar player. There was always a better bass player than me. But I had this accordion, and I was 6'3" and really lanky. And so they're like, what's more Skank and Pickle than a 6'3" accordion player?
Oh yeah.
So it is what it is, man. The rest has been I was in another band called My Superhero after that for many, many years. Actually, and
I remember My
Warsaw played with us in 2011 or 12, and I was thinking, wow, Warsaw is still doing it then, like in 2012.
Wait, I have to ask something, because now you've kind of like popped up a memory. Were you in My Superhero when they played the ska festival in Henderson, Nevada, the Viva Ska?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, we came on right after you.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That's right.
You did.
Yeah, we did one of the. We've always had this like. I remember that the crowd was. It was hot. It was hot, so everyone's just like. But I'm laying down. Someone fan me, and at some point, I realized like this crowd just all they need is someone to say, "Hey, get off your ass." Like, just literally the words, get off your ass. And I remember at that show, we came on after you guys, and I remember just saying, at some point, I noticed that there were like a small group of people dancing on the right-hand side, right? And on the left-hand side, like the entire crowd from the middle was like sitting down. And I just said,
Speaking of Speaking of Viva Scott Vegas, Josh Coots says you're welcome.
Thanks, Josh. Thank you.
You son of a bitch. I remember I go, hey, you guys are having a good time? Well, these guys, they need to get off their ass, so you guys go and attack them. And there was just this wave. All of a sudden, the entire right hand of the crowd ran over and literally just and it was just mayhem. And I remember I actually was like, yeah, and ooh.
Dude, you were the trumpeter. You were the
Here, I thought that
I think I for sure have pictures from that time too, because I was there doing photography for I think TNN Radio at that time. So yeah, I think I
know this, but Janie was on my guest list. I was like, who's Janie Nicole Rocha? I don't even know who this person is, and I'm like, well, I'll put her on, whatever.
Well, that's the amazing.
You're stuck with me forever.
That's the amazing thing about being in these bands and doing this thing is that you run across people sometimes at a gas station in the middle of like North Dakota. Sometimes you run across each other at shows you didn't expect. Sometimes you have a show that you're like, oh, I remember the 4 people I was with, and then you find out in the conversation years and years later that everybody was there. They were just in different like parts of this gigantic arena place, and
that's the great thing about ska. Ska is accessible.
Yeah,
it's accessible to people who make it and to the fans. It's great.
Nice.
And sometimes you end up on a corner busking with them in Eugene, Oregon, right, David?
That's right.
Did he do that with you? Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually was on a tour with the Roundabouts one time in like Denver, and we were playing direct support with them this entire tour. Like it was like 3 weeks or something. And then one night, Christian comes up to me and he goes, "Hey, we need you guys to open tonight." I'm like, "Really? Why?" And he goes, "Oh, well, the Slackers want to play. They needed a show."
Always
and I'm like, really? You're gonna do me like that? We've been friends for like 5 years, and now you want me to like?
Son of a bitch.
Okay, whatever. But it was, hey, you know what? I wouldn't want to play after the Slackers. Anyway, it was cool.
No, sure. Yeah, no.
Did you a favor?
Yeah, do me a favor. Thank you. Thanks, Christian. Christian Jacobs, looking out always.
Well, you know, he is the commander, right? So.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. The cool thing about the Slackers, Jayson, is that you guys have not just the tenure, that you guys have been doing it for a long time, but your songs in particular. I think you have a great handful of songs that definitely speak to the core of what it is to be a human being, and I think that the audience relates to you guys on a different level than most other bands. Like I can see a band and just be like,
"Oh, dude,
woo, that was awesome!" And then I can go to the Slacker show and go, "I listened to every single note because everyone was important to me." So I know
you're right. No, I mean we try and write songs. Like not try and write ska songs, but actually try and write songs, and then the beat that we're going to put it behind is kind of secondary, and sometimes that's obvious. Right. It's like maybe not meant to be that kind of song, but I think like anything, songwriting should be like that. You shouldn't really write to a genre. I mean, but I think same way too, you could take like even classic flamenco stuff. There's melodies and counterpoint and stuff where you could play the songs a different way, so I think that's lyrically too, you should relate to people. It should be about something specific, but it also should be accessible where anyone can hear the lyrics and it can have their own connotation for them personally.
For sure.
Yeah, for sure. I got no shame to admit, like the Slackers as a band, like got me through my divorce over a decade ago, and that was a real fucking low time in my life. And they are still to this day the only live band that I openly weep while they are playing. Like just like a couple of certain songs, just those specific songs that you guys put on, start playing. I'm just like, there is literally no stopping the emotional response.
Yeah.
Just in my lizard brain whatsoever, and that's going to be that way for the next 50 years of my life, listening to that band. Just
for sure.
They really write to the soul. They really do.
Yeah.
So.
Thanks for making us cry, asshole.
I was going to say, Jay's about to say, yeah, I cry on stage for different reasons, but whatever.
I do too. We cry when we get paid.
Oh, you?
I mean, we all cry when we get paid. What? Hey, I get paid in exposure bucks. Okay.
Your bank account is full, man.
I'd settle for a Sizzler gift card once in a while, man. It'd be fine.
Go on.
I think that's the one thing I appreciate about me being also a huge fan of the Slackers, is you guys always put material. When listening to your albums, it's a journey, and I love that you're like fearless of like making your songs your own. You know, putting different inspirations into your music, and I think it's one thing that's really appreciating with any other fan, that you know, it's just top notch. Like when you think of the Slackers, it's like, yeah, that's the Slackers. Like that's no one on that same level.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had the same lineup for 16 years now or something. The lineup hasn't changed, and it's been roughly the same for 20 or something like that. So, you know, you try and get the consistency, but a few people have switched over. So, you know, like since the classic years of the 90s, there's definitely a few people, but there's also like, you know, a few cornerstones of the band that were, you know, at least 4 of the band, 2/3 of the band were on those 90s records too. So try and keep the sound the same. We try and, when I write for the band, I try to like imagine this song being on like Red Light or something, you know, like without being formulaic, like not just ripping off little bits of songs here and there, but try and go, okay, like get into this mindset and, you know, without doing the same thing over and over again, but try and write to that sound, you know?
Yeah. For sure. And you guys
understand the voice.
Yeah, for sure. And you guys have been expanding that sound. I know that for the last couple of albums, I've been hearing a lot of psychedelic 60s kind of blending in with that whole experience. And that's a welcome bedmate to the sound that you guys already do, because it's like part of it is like real songs from real people, and then part of it is like remembering to have your hands firmly on escapism as well, you know, because the audience isn't there to hear like everything that happened in their lives. Like, you know, on Tuesday you took your kids to school and at 4 a.m. it really pissed you off and you spilled your mocha. You know, it's like nobody wants to hear that. They want to hear,
I don't know, bands are doing, you know, like pop punk bands do that, and they fucking go to platinum record, you know? So maybe we should do that and stop trying to rip off the Beach Boys, you know?
That's a good point, dude. That's a good point.
No, we struggle with that same thing because I like how you mentioned the Beach Boys. Well, we did the last album. We redid the actual Beach Boys album cover or actually
sound or something like that.
No, it was actually the cover for Endless Summer, which was their highest selling album ever, but it was a compilation. It wasn't an actual album.
Right. Well, all record, LPs were just compiling the singles. Yeah.
Exactly. So Parker Jacobs from Go-Go 13 and Yo Gabba Gabba and all that stuff. He actually did the artwork for it, and we said make it look as close as you can to not Pet Sounds, but to Endless Summer, because we kind of have like this. We have there's one song in there that's just a direct, like we just took the chords and the progression from Good Vibrations and just made it our own. Called it Rude Vibrations, and had this had a guest singer and everything. Yeah, so I get when you say the Brian Wilson thing, I'm like, yes, Brian Wilson.
Yeah. And other stuff, you know, and it's definitely, there's the like grew up listening to that stuff, and we have to realize, like, oh, you know, you don't want to just pander to kids, but you also realize, like, nobody needs like more covers of like Dylan songs, you know, like they've been covered enough, you know. It's like cover, you know, a cameo song, you know, like maybe a Weird Al, you know.
That is up my
But no,
right
it's
there.
definitely you know, if you're gonna do it's hard to not seem like you're doing it ironically and you're just trying to poke fun at a serious pop song, because everything sounds ironic and like a goof when it's ska.
Don't you think?
I don't know about you. I'm waiting for a Zapp and Roger cover ska band. That's what I'm waiting for.
For a what?
For a Zapp and Roger cover band. Like, I'm ready for that.
Oh, nice. I want to get.
Hey, we got Boomtown United saying, "What up from St. Louis? Shout out to Agent J." Yo.
Nice.
Yeah, I had the pleasure of mixing their record back in, I don't know when that was. That the summer? Was that spring? I don't even remember how long ago that was. I guess that was last year, but it feels like years ago. But that was a fun record to make because they're tight and they recorded well. So it was like a pleasure to mix their record because I didn't have to fix a lot of things, you know.
Yeah, the saxophone player Mike is going to be on the show later this week, I think.
Nice.
Cool talking to them. Hey, so we're past the hour. Let's take it to the next level. One thing I think the purpose, reason why I'm in this chat room in the little box is because I'm trying to like poke out there and saying like, hey, are you guys all still alive? Like, what are you doing? Like, poke. Let's start thinking about making this thing better, right? Because music was taking a pretty stiff dive for a long time, and then I think it kind of floated just a little bit up as the Trump era was coming to a close, and then it went bam, nosedive. And so this entire year I've been thinking about like, what do we do to kind of stick a fork under people's ass and get them to start making music again, making art, making things that once the COVID restrictions have been lifted, we can get out there and there's a healthy scene because people are just ready and they're already running. And so I'd like to get just a brief round of like, if you've ever had an idea of how we could do things better, now is the time to kind of like, here's an idea. Let's start with Mike. Mike, what do you? I know you're really active now, but what do you think your average musician or average artist of any type needs to hear to realize that they're important and that they have worth in this society?
Well, I think that people just need to create. Like, you need to, like you did when you were 14, you know, you learned the riff on guitar because you wanted to learn the riff on guitar and you wanted to get better. I think now, if you're an adult and you've been doing this, or you were in a band or whatever, it's time to really use this downtime to kind of get creative and step outside the box a little bit. I don't know what that means to some people, but, you know, do a video, do a series of videos that are just shot on an iPhone, and, you know, they're, I don't know, casual, or I don't know, do an art piece, do something that's different. Like, because I think that we all need to feel alive again and feel that we're contributing a verse to this whole thing. And so I think the being in the action of movement and being constantly in a creative mode, just to be creative is great. I mean, we come out of it, we got like 20 songs, Bambi, like waiting to record them. Like, we're just ready to go, you know? So I think that it's, you know, me personally, I mean, I've got my own songs, you know, and it's stuff that, you know, just be a creative being again, because eventually this is going to come out, and eventually we're all going to be out of this. And I swear, if everybody's chomping at the bit like I am to see a live show, it's going to be crazy. It'll be crazy, because you'll have picked up, you picked up fans online that are just getting into this, just seeing it online for the first time. They haven't even been to a show yet. They're all waiting to go. So I that's my hope anyway. My hope is that it doesn't die off completely, and I know in my heart of hearts that people love the human condition. They love to be together. And so there's nothing better than live music for that. So I know in my heart of hearts that it's going to come back around. And my only challenge to everybody is just keep creating, keep doing it, you know, be more prolific, set goals for yourself and make it work. I don't know if that's set goals. Is that too coaching? Sorry.
Now you gotta pat us on the butt and say good game.
You know what? Nice ass, America. Good job. Good job.
David, your room is getting darker and darker.
I know. I'm like looking for a light.
No, that's cool. That's cool. We like David.
Moody.
What has gone through your mind about the music industry and the art industry, and how do you think we can make it better so that when the COVID is lifted, that we encourage the art industry to be just the best that they can be?
Well, I think we gotta find our ways back to being artists and musicians. You know, like birds, and like you said, being creative. I feel like it's kind of like that saying that if an entrepreneur needs words of encouragement, probably couldn't be. You know, it's like we lead by example. So the more that we create at our personal level, I think it's going to inspire others to do so. And if you don't feel inspired, I think that it's also our responsibility to treat our art in that way. Like, you know, go back to school, take a course in something, a style that you haven't studied. Maybe find some inspiration by evolving and not just staying in the same place. You know, musically, I think that's very important for us that want to continue to do music for the long run, is to evolve and explore other areas and other music and other things that maybe can help us grow. You know, like picking up like audio engineering, anything that maybe directly to writing songs, it can also be beneficial, you know, and the overall well-being of arts and music and that sort of stuff, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Jamie, what are your thoughts? What do you think? And you're this is a special moment because you've done road managing and merching and promotion and that sort of thing. You're kind of coming at it from the outside perspective, even though you get to live the life of along with entertainers and be entertained and be part of that system. You have kind of an interesting vantage point. What do you think artists can do to keep their focus up and keep their desire up and to hit the ground running as soon as we get COVID?
You know what? I feel like up to right before pre-COVID, I feel like a lot of bands got really comfortable of doing kind of like the bare minimum of just like releasing digital content or stuff like that. And I feel like COVID really pushed them to really think out of a box to facilitate a relationship with fans. And I feel like for example, Bambi did Twitch, and they're really like building a relationship to make the fans feel like they're a part of something and making things personal and customizing the experience for them. And I feel like I hope bands don't lose that desire and that process of building those relationships with fans after, you know, once again we could go to shows and do stuff with concepts of normalcy again. And I feel like bands should continue finding like bands are facilitating like Twitch, which was primarily a gamer medium, or like TikTok. I see a lot of bands just really using that to their advantage, and they're building a huge fan base off of that alone, of just trying to think of unique ideas. And I feel like bands shouldn't go back to feeling comfortable, go back to that comfort zone of like, oh, we can release the video and digital content and that's enough. I feel like hopefully this is like a big lesson and a big wake up reminder. Like, no, fans love you creating that relationship with them and feeling like they're a part of something. And I really hope that continues after we are surviving this really crazy timeline that we're in. And to like, you know, like what everyone else said, to keep creating and doing songs, but on top of that, finding new mediums for your art and finding different ways where you could incorporate your fan base into that too. And in that way, I feel like when you create a personal friendship with your fan base, they're way more enthusiastic of like, well, I got to do that for
Absolutely.
them. And because, you know what I mean? So I feel like to really keep pushing the envelope of how you create new relationships and new ways you can evolve your fan base. So I think hopefully after COVID, people will really facilitate their sources, their mediums that they're offered to them, and really keep doing that after. So, and hopefully we can get back on the road again. Like, God damn it, I'm the road.
On the road.
Even though I appreciate the sleep and not having to be in the van with 6 other dudes, right now I will give the world to do that again. So, and also too, really think out of the box of supporting your venues. You know, a lot of them are closing right now. And think of other ways you incorporate that to supporting your local venue, and even make new places to do music. And just try to get us back on the road. I'm ready to go.
Nice. Yeah, I not to add too much to it, but never have I shed a tear over a stupid pop song like Willie Nelson's "On the Road Again."
Oh yeah.
Like just those words or "Life I Love is Making Music with My Friends." I literally well up in tears now.
I recently went up to Wrightwood. It was my father's birthday, and I live with family, so it was okay for us to go up there because my aunt has a cabin up there. And just the feeling of traveling, because I've been stuck in the suburbs for COVID for so long, just going somewhere where there's a scene change. And I actually was listening to Willie Nelson's "On the Road Again," and I'm like, oh man, like it just all the feels just hit you. I'm like, just to see different scenery for God knows how, I don't know in how long, it hit a spot. I was like, oh. But,
you got everybody driving on the road again.
I'm like, stop it, guys. Stop it.
We didn't know. We're gonna come out with a Flying J t-shirt, like
Man, I always, for years, I looked at every Flying J to try and find a Flying J, like one of the brown worker shirts they used to have in the 90s. I don't know if they still have them, but I haven't seen it forever.
We're covering the same cloth there, Jay. I did the same thing too.
I know. I don't have an original thought in my head, trust me.
Shirts.
Well, speaking of original thoughts,
Jay, what is your recipe for success? What do you think? What do you think musicians and artists and should do?
No, I don't know anything about success, but I would say, I don't know if it works or not, but I tried to put stuff out regularly. Like you mentioned, you were talking about Endless Summer, which is a compilation of singles, and bands used to put out, a dozen singles a year or something like that. Like half a dozen. Bands would put out several, 2 full-length LPs a year. When they were hot, the label wanted to just crank out records to sell them. And, in the 70s, that kind of all died, and bands take 4 years to make a record and whatever. But I tried to put out at least a song and a little slap together video every month for Bandcamp Friday. And, whatever, it scrapes together a couple bucks, and it certainly didn't kick the door open to any wider thing, but it was a good exercise in staying busy and staying on a schedule. Because, when you're working on something you have a new tune and you write a bunch of it really fast because you're inspired, and then you blink and a year and a half went by and you still haven't recorded it or even finished the song. So I think even if it's only as an exercise, bands should stay busy. If they have access to doing live stream stuff, get together and do the 15-minute set, live every couple of weeks, once a month, just to kind of keep your audience engaged. And here too, you were talking about, people moving out of LA out to the desert, and definitely that's a thing here in New York where people are scattering to the suburbs that can, either transplants that moved here or moving back to the state they came from, or, people that finally are just fuck this, I'm not going to live in a tiny apartment. I can get a bigger space in the suburbs. I don't need to go to an office every day. All the nightlife is closed anyway. So I'm trying to get together a collective of people and, look for a DIY space, look for an abandoned storefront now, which suddenly is a thing in New York again. and get some kind of DIY space going. We used to do parties at my friend's space for years, from 2009 to 2015. And there was always, you know, in the 90s, it was always like squats and places to do that, but there aren't really now. But now that, you know, I hate to see the positive in, you know, a bad situation, but you're like, okay, maybe we can turn some of these, you know, failed like retail businesses, of which we had too many, into something else. Maybe we can make a space out of it. And if we can do music sporadically enough and discreetly enough, hopefully the cops won't shut us down. But I think if people try to maybe do those kind of things in their hometown, try and do the shows again, even though we're older now, I'm in my late 40s, but it's like, do the fucking garage shows, do the backyard shows, do the fucking guerrilla shows, show up with a PA in a parking lot and just make some shit happen now, you know, keep them guessing.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah. And I think the concept of like, you know, we shouldn't do that because the cops will show up. No, let them show up. Yeah. Let them that's what made it fucking cool. Let
them show up.
Yeah.
Well, be ready for it and deal with it.
14 years old, we played a show at a park. You know, we just wheeled in our amps. There was 2 plugs. We plugged them in and played. And that's just how it was. We did shows at tilt up, like roll up garage spaces.
And they rely on
the
you policing yourselves. If everybody were to just do it sporadically, not the same person every time, but if somebody, you know, keep them on the move and then make them have to change an ordinance, you know, they'll probably crack down, but hopefully the city will, you know, say, okay, you could do this, you can get these permits, we got to work with this, you know, hopefully.
Yeah, for sure.
John Jackson on your last episode, Curtis, he made a really good point of saying how after this, we're really going to hit a DIY era again of terms of just trying to.
Clubs are closed.
Yeah, they're going to have. It's going to be going back to our roots of, you know, having to go out there and do the work rather than relying. Like I said, I think we got such in the comfort zone of how things were. This is really going to force us to do stuff that we probably haven't did in so long. You know what I mean? So I think we're going to just experience a renaissance of just going back to our roots and doing stuff to not only get the music out there, but to, again, building that relationship with their fans. And I think, you know, they're going to enjoy it. It's going to benefit them. It's going to benefit us. So I think it's really going to be back into a DIY kind of feel, which I'm really excited for. So
excited about that. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I'm really glad that like that's like kind of been the sentiment, especially with the answers of this particular question from Kurt for about the last week and a half or so. Like a lot of people have been saying that, you know, it's going to get back to the DIY. One of the first like 2 or 3 episodes, that was what I was saying, is I really think that we're going to kind of do a dive back into the early mid 90s and how shows were back then. When this is all lifted, because clubs ain't opening up not for another couple of years.
Yeah,
you know.
Well, dude, I'm looking at warehouse spaces right now. I'm looking at warehouse spaces right now in Santa Ana, and you know, once you get moved into those, we were talking about that. Like, what do? We do a show for 100 people, and your admission is your first vaccination or your second. I don't know. Like, how do we do it? You know what I mean? Like, $5 in the car, you know, and then there's beers.
Bambi will be performing in the banquet hall of a Sizzler. Like, we're ready, like, did that. It's going to be punctual Sizzler.
We actually tried to do that. So.
It's true.
Endless shrimp.
That's what I'm saying.
The new endless summer.
Yeah.
Exactly.
There we go.
Thank you. Spreading the good word of Sizzler. Thank you.
Chef kiss.
My girl, my endless girl.
Well, thank you guys. It means a lot to me that you spared some time for this. I
thank you.
Admire all of you guys, and that's the business. You've been listening to Jayson Nugent from Slackers, Mike Berault from Bite Me Bambi, David Macias from Machin, Jamie Rocha from the Macias, Bite Me Bambi, codename Rocky, and I'm Curtis, and that's Brian, and we're the business. And if you guys are interested in sticking around and chatting afterwards, I know you got to go, Jayson, but we do take it off the air, and also friends and family can jump in too, because I'll unlock the room. So anyway, thank you.
Nice one, man. Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Sure, you guys.